So Max Verstappen could actually lose his 2021 championship. Today on F1 Lift the Lid, I'm going to be covering that and everything from the Singapore Grand Prix this weekend. Thank you all for tuning in to F1's Lift the Lid. I'm Callum Hill. Now, why would Max Verstappen lose his 2021 championship? Well, this is all to do with the cost cap regulations that came in 2021 at the start of last year. As you all know, Max Verstappen won the championship in the last race in Abu Dhabi in 2021 with that big climactic finish against Lewis Hamilton. Max, though, hasn't done anything wrong, but it looks like Red Bull possibly could have. The news is supposed to break on Wednesday, the 5th of October. This is for the FIA to announce, and it's believed that there are going to be two teams that are believed to have breached the cost cap. Now, the cost cap was brought in to try and even out the field, so all the Formula One teams had the right to be able to have the same budget, so you can have regular teams that weren't linked to a car manufacturer can compete on the same level as the teams that have almost an infinity load of budget to deal with. Now, the price cap was 145 million for last year. The FIA have put sanctions in place for any teams that go above that, and anything that goes above 5% of that is supposedly going to be much harsher sanctions. And the rumor is in the F1 paddock right now is that Red Bull may have gone above that 5%. This has been fiercely kind of put to the side by Christian Horner and everyone else at Red Bull, saying that they've not even heard of this, that there's nothing wrong, that they haven't done anything wrong, and that they were within the price cap. But these rumors have spread really quickly. There could be another team involved as well. I'm not too sure off the top of my head which team that will be. However, it does look like Red Bull were the ones that are most likely to have gone well over the price cap. Now, the reason why Max Verstappen could potentially even lose his championship is because if they had gone over by that huge amount, by more than 5% of the price cap, the FIA will be able to apply full sanctions to that. Now, they haven't confirmed that necessarily Red Bull would lose the championship or Max Verstappen would lose the championship from last year. They may even apply sanctions to this year. They could be deducting points. They could be deducting a budget off of next year for Red Bull or for any other team that might be in infringement of this. It's all a bit up in the air at the moment, but it is the news, and it's quite big news that's come out. So fingers crossed there's nothing too bad gone wrong, and that these are more rumours than anything else. But we may see something a bit more dramatic come in the middle of this week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Now, I've just finished watching the F1 Singapore Grand Prix, and it did not disappoint. There was plenty to talk about. Firstly, keeping on the subject of Red Bull, we actually had Sergio Perez winning the Singapore Grand Prix, coming from second, going up into first in the first lap, and just controlled the race from there in a race that was pretty difficult to control, with a lot of people going off throughout. There was still the damp weather on the track, lots of little crashes here and there, lots of safety cars, lots of yellow flags, but Sergio Perez kept his cool and went on to win the race. His second win on a street circuit this year, with Monaco as well. So two of the hardest racetracks to go around in the whole F1 calendar, and Sergio Perez proved why he is still able to keep that Red Bull seat. A lot of people have said in the past they don't believe he should be in the seat still. He can't keep up with Max. You don't even really hear Perez's name being mentioned alongside Red Bull very often, because obviously Max is the number one story. But he has shown that when he gets down to it, he can produce results, especially around places like this. So I just want to congratulate Sergio Perez. We saw the two Ferraris, coming in at second and third. Again, pretty well orchestrated by the Ferrari team, which was quite surprising, considering how they have been throughout the rest of the season. But again, they've kept their cool. They've stayed in front. They didn't drop back. And it was a really good result for Ferrari today. We also saw McLaren doing really well, scoring some of the best points that they have all season. We saw Lando Norris coming in fourth, and then surprisingly, Daniel Ricciardo back on form here in Singapore in 5th place, keeping up with his teammate there in McLaren. So there's great news from McLaren. McLaren have also gone ahead of Alpine. So this result really was big for them. Obviously, we had the two Alpines, both of them having problems earlier on in the race, and we saw some engine problems. We saw Alonso's car go pop in the middle of it, we've now seen the McLaren's been able to move ahead of Alpine, which is a really big result for them. So congratulations there to McLaren. With Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton had a pretty dramatic race, really. It was going up and down throughout the whole race. He went into the barriers at one point, had to get the nose cone changed, the front wing changed. He was lucky enough that it would suddenly be decided that the slicker tyres were actually possible to go onto exactly at that point in the race when Hamilton crashed. So everyone would be pitting for slick tyres anyway. So we kind of got a half-free pit stop to be able to go and get the new nose cone as well as pit onto the new slick tyres. He battled throughout it, because of where Verstappen was. We saw Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen battling again throughout most of the race, a bit of back and forth. So that was good again to see, and it was showing that I think the Mercedes could keep up, but there was all sorts of dramas happening within the race. It wasn't really possible for Lewis to get right up to the top with everything that was going on, and we also saw George Russell having again his own dramas throughout the whole weekend. Really, he didn't perform in qualifying, free practice he didn't do too well in either. However, even though he finished 14th in the end and got lapped twice, he still got the fastest lap of the race, which is pretty surprising. Not a great weekend for George, but he had that little bonus at the end. It's one of the only times this season he hasn't finished within the top 5. So I think he's done overall pretty well in the whole in the grand scheme of things. But it was just disappointing to see not much going on for George Russell this weekend. Another team I was really happy to see at the top of the tables, or the top 10 at least, for this Grand Prix, was Aston Martin. We saw Lance Stroll coming in 6th, and Sebastian Vettel should have been in 7th, but he got overtaken by Max Verstappen in the second half of the final lap. So it was really disappointing to hear that. Sebastian Vettel was the winner of the last Singapore Grand Prix that we had in 2019 for Ferrari. It's obviously a track that favours him. And obviously Aston Martin produced the goods on this one. Surprising, really, because they've not been anywhere the entire season. But it's really great to see them in the top 10. And then hopefully that would be a good morale boost for the team based near Silverstone. And as I said in one of my last videos, I expect to see Aston Martin over the next 2 to 3 years to be right up the top of the table, fighting with the big boys there. I would imagine that with all of that investment, with the new facility being built at Silverstone, I believe that they've got a really strong future. So hopefully this is just the start of something for them. We had 6 DNFs, did not finishes. That was pretty typical for Singapore. That's exactly what I think most people would have expected. It's a street circuit. It was a bit damp and the cars were all over the show. We had a couple of engines going. We had people going into the barriers. We had the 2 Williams cars go out because of crashes. Unfortunately, we saw Guan Yu Zhou go out as well again in the Alfa Romeo. This was due to contact with Latifi in the Williams, which also knocked the Williams of Latifi out. So not a great time for Williams, Alfa Romeo, and especially Alpine there. Alpine obviously having the most to lose in that race. So thank you everyone for tuning in for F1 Lift the Lid for this week. Give the show a like, follow me on the page here. I'm also over on YouTube and Instagram. Just search at F1 Lift the Lid, and I'll see you next week. Thanks very much.